Hello, friends, and welcome to another podcast, Nourishing Time with SALEMA, an evolving space dedicated to mindful self inquiry, prompts, and practices to cultivate Zen living in the age of technology. So, I hope this podcast and post finds you well. This week, I start the podcast and a post with a poem around self worth as the thread. My last few podcasts have explored the importance of what it means to tap back into our unique presence. Cultivating presence helps us re-nourish our strength, resilience, confidence, self-esteem, and belief. So this poem and the title of this podcast and post is Values and Virtues, the joy of coming back to yourself. And I think we all need that in this current reality that we are living with what is playing out around us and in front of us. Friends or foe? No roadmap as such, so how can I really know? Fear, the unfriendly signpost. So who can I trust to show me the way now? Fields of green, nature becomes my friend. A call to adventure. Fiction or reality? Old enough now to know. Aligned or misaligned, did I go wrong? No need to apologise for whom I've become. No more second guessing. No longer under the influence. Honesty with self. Ascending and trusting my inner compass. The freedom to choose what matters. Moving along. Making sense of life from a fresh perspective. Learning a lifelong lesson. And humble to stay open. So what do I see? A new way of being emerges, illuminating my path and strengthening my presence, honouring what is dear to me. Relearned my self-worth, found purpose once more, and found my highest self. When I consider presence, value comes to mind. Our individual value as well as what we value. In other words, what matters to us. These are often known as secondary values in psychology and philosophy. So today we're going to be talking about those primary values and secondary values and how they actually become our navigational guideposts along life's journey, ultimately influencing how we show up in the world. And it is during this journey where we often begin to question and explore, how can we become the best version of ourselves? Without these guideposts, we can often feel life holds no meaning or purpose for us. Often asking the following questions frequently as we undertake said journey. What is life? And what is my purpose while I'm here? So, what is the answer for you, my friends? Checking in with your values and virtues is often a good place to start. However, before we move on, let's just briefly clarify the different types of values, of which there are many. But the ones below and the ones that follow are the ones that we're focusing on today. So let's just go back for a moment to primary values, also known as core values, which are strong and normally centered around your beliefs on life, work, family, and the world, reinforced by institutions, by family, government, education, and often religion, but not spirituality. These values, these primary core values, are normally fixed and normally born out of our formative and early years. They can also be ethical and cultural. So the secondary values are more flexible. They're ongoing, changes with age, environment, and our mental state. And they normally focus around community, material things, and spiritual aspects. So now we've taken a brief look at values. Let's define the difference between values and virtues. Values, in brackets, what's important, importance. Moral principles, ethics, codes, standards, codes of behaviour, rules of contact, merit, and worth. Virtues, moral positive traits or attributes. So here we find dignity, honesty, honour, integrity, strength, and talent. Getting lost in others' values from what we see and hear via the media does impact our own values and virtues. Obviously, we can't help it. They unconsciously make an imprint in our subconscious and often affect our beliefs and behaviours in the process. So, without a strong sense of self, we can sometimes find ourselves lost, it's fair to say, lost in the abyss of feeling like we're not quite enough. More prevalent in today's society with so much emphasis placed upon perfection. Being imperfect doesn't seem to be an option, or does it? Getting to know yourself can be and is normally a lifelong lesson if you're willing to be the student. Our beliefs directly affect our values. As I said before, normally instilled from our younger years, our environment, parents, family, education, they form an important part of our early identity. However, our identity changes because of our experiences. Feeling lost then can come from not realizing that your values have changed and no longer match who you've become. So trying to live by outdated values when you have changed as a person then becomes the disconnect that we can feel. And that sense of becoming lost. And I've seen and experienced this so many times with clients that I've coached over the years. And yet it is a relatively simple issue to resolve if you are willing to undertake a proper life review. Yes, of course, you will have core values ingrained from that early childhood. However, the secondary values will have changed. And it is in this realization that you can start to break free by making choices that align with who you are now, who you are in the present. What follows are some simple prompts to help you explore, review, and reset your values and recognize your virtues in the present. In other words, how you show up in the world and what you bring to the table. So, go grab a pen and paper or your journal before we start. Let's get started. Remember here that your primary core values are normally centered around your beliefs on life, work, family, and the world, reinforced by institutions, family, government, education, but not necessarily spirituality. So, what are your core primary values? Answer the following and you might find out. So, going back to what I spoke about previously, why do each of these P values, these primary values, matter to me? Where did these primary values come from? So these are like really strong, rigid, you don't really want to give them up. It's something that is or has become part of the pillar of who you are. Are these primary values, are they still relevant to who I am now? This is the important one. Am I still living by these primary values now? Are you still living these now? What matters to me now? And what would you like to change? If any. Maybe not. You don't want to change them, and that's fine too. But ask yourself the question and see what comes. So the primary values normally are the hardest to identify because they're so hardly wired, ingrained, embedded in us. So take your time with doing this and see what emerges. The secondary values are a little bit more flexible and open to change. And to understand what they are and how these may impact you, you can ask the following 12 prompts. Number 1, what matters to me currently? Number 2, what motivates me currently? Remember, here we're talking about traits and attributes. What do you believe currently is number 3. 4, what is true for you about the world, your life now? Number 5, what are you contemplating currently? Number 6, are you journaling? You can journal on your phone, you can download an app, you can write, you can do both. It's completely up to you. But that really helps. If you can do pen and paper, our brain behaves in a slightly different way as opposed to when we tap something into our computer or our Kindle. It activates different neurons in the brain. So you might stand more chance of enforcing what you want to create if you write it down. And that's why journaling can be so impactful. Number 7, what is the most interesting thing you've heard recently? Number 8, what are you most proud of when it comes to you? So something you've achieved, maybe it can be a relationship, it can be a job, it can be study, it can be a work of art, it can be a garden, it can be a house. You can overcome trauma. Like, what are you most proud of when it comes to you? Number 9, what's the one thing you really want to do but have never done, and why? Number 10, what's holding you back from doing or feeling how you want to? And remember, this is all about reinforcing or eradicating. Let's start with that first. Eradicating an old pattern of belief about your ability, capability, yourself with others in the world. So we're trying to eradicate anything that is negative and instead think about something that has been in your life or something that you've done or a trait that you have which you're very good at, and bring that forward. So we'll use that as a replacement mechanism to eradicate the old way that you see yourselves. All right, so it's a bit like this is easier to do with the secondary values than it is with the primary, because they're not so ingrained. So you have that freedom to say, actually, I choose to feel this way because I'm actually really proud of myself in how I handled myself in A, B, C, D, or just A. What can help you become the best, happiest version of yourself? And the last one, what can you or what needs to change? Do you really need to go back and take stock of your attributes? And like I say, dignity, honor, honesty, integrity, strength, and talent are just a few of the moral positive traits or attributes. So it's often interesting to see when we look back by our responses to these prompts, things we may have not realized about our growth and or our stagnation. So I invite you to be brutally honest and to also really acknowledge, take a moment to acknowledge your self-worth in the process, finding joy in coming back to yourself. And that is ultimately what we're trying to do. We're trying to come back to ourselves in this busy, impactful world that we now live in. We now find ourselves living and navigating in. It is very easy to lose this sense of self. And so, what can be nourishing for us mentally as well as physically, because obviously emotions, gut, mental health, they're all connected, is really just taking the time to sit with yourself, to do a life review, to make time for that, to be able to practice the right relationship to yourself and to all that is around you, to your environment, to the world. And that's what it comes down to. So, thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. And thank you for your presence, because it does matter. If you're listening to this on iTunes or Spotify, please head over. Feel free to comment on any of the prompts and practices. I'd be interested to hear or see if they are helpful for you. Meantime, thank you for reading, listening, sharing, and commenting Nourishing Time with Salema. This post and podcast is public, so feel free to share it. And it just leaves me to say, be well, mean well, and live well. Until next time, my friends.